famously known as Notun Gram, which is a village which makes the wooden doll owls, which is quite iconic of craft in Bengal. Dilip leads the craft cluster in his village and is a secretary of the community collective there. They have a regular village festival in that village, and they also have a beautiful community museum. So Dilip, নমস্কার, স্বাগত আজকের অনুষ্ঠানে। আমার তোমাকে প্রথম প্রশ্ন, যেহেতু আজকে অনেকে আছেন দেশ বিদেশ থেকে, একটু যদি তোমার শিল্পের সম্বন্ধে আমাদের দেখাও। I'm requesting Dilip to share a little bit about of their craft tradition. Dilip, please show.
প্রথমে দেখাচ্ছি আমাদের পেঁচা। এই পেঁচা হচ্ছে এখন নতুন গ্রামে ফেমাস, সর্বত্রই আমরা পেঁচা নিয়ে যাই এবং এই পেঁচা নিয়ে আমি দেশ বিদেশেও গিয়েছি। অনেক দিনের মানে শিল্পার্জ কাজ আমাদের। বর্তমানে আমাদের এই শিল্পার্জ কাজটি বহুত বিস্তার তৈরি করেছে।
So this is their traditional Notun Gram's owl. They made it by woods, and this is the way he started doing their craft, practicing the craft. So he started by this particular piece. Dilip da, tumi tomar introduction dao, tomar naam and tumi ko bachor dhore korcho seta ekbar bolo.
আমার নাম দিলীপ সূত্রধর, নতুন গ্রাম, পূর্ব বর্ধমান। আমি আমার এই শিল্পার্জ মোটামুটি আজকে প্রায় 35-36 বছর করছি।
So he has been practicing this craft since 35 years now, and he's still continuing with that craft. And yeah.
আচ্ছা দিলীপ, তোমাদের গ্রামে গত কয়েক বছরে একটা পরিবর্তন এসছে। ওখানে একটা ফোক আর্ট সেন্টার হয়েছে, তোমাদের ওখানে মেলা হয়। আগে তোমাদের ওখানে কেউ যেত না, এখন যাচ্ছে। এই নিয়ে কোনো চেঞ্জ হয়েছে কি, ভালো হয়েছে? In Dilip's village, there is a folk art center and they do regular festivals. So I'm asking him that now that people have started visiting their village, how is it different from before? Well,
আমাদের এখন বর্তমানে গ্রামের পরিস্থিতি ভালো হয়েছে। তার কারণ হচ্ছে একটাই, যে আমাদের গ্রামে একটি সোসাইটি তৈরি করা হয়েছে আমাদের বাংলা নাটকের উদ্যোগে। সেই সোসাইটি করার পর আমার গ্রামে এখন এই উডেন ডল মেলাও হয়। সেই মেলা হওয়াতে আমাদের খুবই উপকার হয়েছে। অনেক মানুষজন আসে এবং সেখানে আমাদের পরিচিতি বেড়েছে, মানুষজন আসে আরো বেশি। তাতে কি হয়, আমাদের প্রোডাক্ট বিক্রয়ের রাস্তাটাও তৈরি হয়েছে ভালো, এবং এই মেলা হওয়ার জন্য বিশেষত আমাদের খুবই উপকার হয়। আর একটা কথা যেটা, সেটা এই মেলা হওয়ার জন্য আমরা বাইরেও যেতে পারছি আমাদের প্রচারের মাধ্যমে। এবং তারপরে আর একটা জিনিস কি, সর্বত্রই আমাদের গ্রামে বাইরের থেকে মানুষজন আসছে, লোকালের মানুষজন আসছে। তারপরে এই মেলার জন্য আমাদের রাস্তারও পরিবর্তন হয়েছে। বর্তমানে গ্রামের সর্বদিক দিয়ে আমাদের উপকার হয়েছে। তো সামনের দিনও আশা রাখবো যে আরো আমরা উপকৃত হব বা পজিশন ফিরবে।
So he is saying that the situation of this craft in his village has been improved a lot from the earlier times. Now he's saying that through Bangla Natok, the organization, there are craft fairs which is being organized there, and there are craft projects also. And for that, craft clusters and craft shomitis, we say in local language, that they have developed this craft, and it's easier for them to sell their products too.
Thank you, Dilip, and thank you, Obhijit Sardar. Obhijit is a young designer who is helping out Dilip in interpretation. In fact, I would also like to share with all of you that Notun Gram has got geographical indication. Tumra GI logo pecho, tai na? So that has also boosted. So they are now getting more orders, more opportunities to participate. Now I'll go over to Dr. Jonathan Karkut. He's an anthropologist and an ICH expert, and his expertise is an unusual combination of earth and social science knowledge, which has allowed him to bring more complete perspectives to developmental issues. For more than 2 decades, Jonathan has specialized in applied tourism projects with a focus on intangible cultural heritage, including, in the villages of West Bengal, where he partnered with us in 2009-10 in villages of Chow dance and Baul music. Jonathan, glad to have you here. You have been working on ICH and cultural tourism, and we'd like to really hear from you your experience on how worldwide this could be a powerful force in building community resilience through cultural tourism, through responsible cultural tourism. If you can share with us that what is this responsibility and sustainability all about? Thank you.
Thank you, Ananya, and namaskar. Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to be with you, even remotely. Yeah, just very briefly this morning, I'd very much like to present a little bit of that journey, because it really has been a journey over the last 20 or more years, and I'd like to introduce just a few of the things that have really become more aware. We've become more aware, and this really interesting interplay between local and global and local and international, I think, is very, very interesting, especially for cultural tourism. So my personal journey with intangible heritage really began with a project we did also with the European Union called Mediterranean Voices, and that was way back at the turn of the century. And it was a huge program, and there were 15 projects, and we were the only one interested in intangible heritage. So it tells you in that day, people didn't really have a strong understanding of how intangible heritage could be presented. People were aware, obviously, of intangible heritage and traditions, but how to utilize it and how to value it. It was especially important, and the other aspect we noticed right back then is all those other projects that we were a part of this wider program were very much focused on sort of monumental, really grand spectacles and built heritage, especially. And we were interested in the everyday, in the immediate, with the local villages and local people, and especially a context and the connectivity with intangible heritage was a very important element for us. So as Ananya introduced, in 2009, we first came to experience intangible heritage in West Bengal. And over these years, we've been very interested in seeing it evolve as well. It's the one learning is that it hasn't been static. The way in which people understand, the way in which governments understand, the way in which tourists understand intangible heritage is always on the move, and you have to be reflecting and keeping an eye on things. To really get a sense of where is this moving, and how can people create livelihoods, make best use out of intangible heritage. So out of those observings, I think one of the key things is how we see intangible cultural heritage as a bridge, as a pathway between the people, between the resources that they utilize. So we've just heard about the carving and the local wood and local paint is obviously very, very significant resources. Traditions as well, how people arrive at how their intangible heritage is manifested. The landscape, the environment, and all of the elements. So it's not simply something which is in a bubble and just created and presented. It's really an essence of the place and of the people. And I think that's how it is so very, very interesting and powerful. And particularly to cultural tourism, I see it, or one metaphor I think it is it's a sort of a thread. It can weave through different elements and introduce different elements. And obviously, if it's more than one dimensional, it becomes more interesting and more compelling to people to visit, to experience, and to participate as well. So it's not about a product. We saw the owl. That is one a piece of a much bigger jigsaw. The really to generate greater opportunities through intangible heritage are I pick up on a few C words. Context is absolutely crucial. It has to relate to something. It's not produced in a factory 1,000 kilometers away and then landed on a market. It's in the context of the locality. There's a connectivity, as I just described, with traditions, with people, with landscapes. And there's a continuity as well. Continuity is very important. Passing on experiences, knowledge, traditions through generations, and evolving and transforming and changing. And so what you have is a whole experience of a place. I'm very glad Ananya mentioned Shantiniketan, because I'm going to mention that also now. And there is a place which is monumental, is iconic and global. There's every likelihood it will become a World Heritage Site in the coming period. And the focus initially for UNESCO is through the built heritage and Articles 2 and 6, so kind of very formal. But the experience for most people around Shantiniketan is how the intangible experience animates this space, animates this place. You're walking through it. It blends and manages to mix between what can sometimes be thought of as high culture and sometimes low culture, which are problematic terms, of course. Also local and global, because the tradition, the legacy of Tagore has been about connectivity, connecting with local traditions, but also connecting with global experiences. And so the festivals of Pushotsav and Bashantotsav are really kind of expressing that. That's the real element of Shantiniketan. And lastly, last word, I want to mention the group which Ananya and myself also have a commonality in, which is the ICOMOS ICOMOS International Cultural Tourism Committee. And most significantly, we have just revised and updated the charter from the ICOMOS Cultural Tourism Committee. And that is a really important resource, because it's not a bland, static piece of paper. It's something Ananya worked extremely hard, I know, contributing towards. And basically, it is trying to place the context of intangible heritage and cultural tourism together, and as a template for how people can start to think of optimizing and using those assets and generating livelihoods and development. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan, for those important pointers, and this will really be useful for our discussion. I'd like to share, this is the second season of Ripples Festival, and our first season was Rar, which is the area around Shantiniketan, and it was a basic idea. This Bardhaman is also close to Shantiniketan, and the basic idea of the Ripples Festival by Bangla Natak and British Council is connecting this local and global ethos together and celebrating it, and that's why we have the festival in a hybrid format too, online and on ground. So thanks for those words. And I'll go over to Dr. Devanzan Chakraborty. Devanzan is the director of British Council East and Northeast India. He has over 18 years of experience in leading education, development, and cultural collaboration programs in India and internationally, and is one of the trustees of the International Language and Development Conference, and is in the Education Advisory Board of Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and He is our very helpful and supportive partner. So I'll take this opportunity to thank Devanzan for making the Ripples Festival possible. And Devanzan, we would like to hear from you. British Council has been focusing on creative economy and cultural tourism. And how do you think this will help in building resilience, and what more?
Thank you, Ananya. Am I audible
Yes,
to everyone?
Yes.
First off, a huge thanks to you, Ananya, and your Bangla Natok team for organizing Ripples Festival. I was there in Bonnabogram and Tepantor on Friday, and I was absolutely inspired by what I saw there. Welcome to Jonathan and Harriet, Dilip, Suresh, Afroza, fellow panelists today afternoon here in India. So I think let me just do a little bit of context setting in terms of intangible heritage, creative economy, creative industries, the visitor economy. I mean, these are, as Jonathan mentioned in passing, these are overlapping terms and domains. In 2021 is UN's designated International Year of Creative Economy, and British Council is a partner in this program. And our support to Ripples Festival fits within that wider framework. Globally, the value of creative economy is worth over $2 trillion by an Ernst & Young estimate, employs over 30 million people. By 2023, creative economy, the handmade, artisanal, and the craft sector within creative economy is estimated to be worth $1 trillion. So that is the overall context, and COVID-19 has really disrupted that in a very significant way. UK has a fair deal of expertise in mapping of the creative economy and looking at the linkages between creative economy and visitor economy, and the heritage sector, both tangible and intangible heritage sector is particularly well developed and well looked after. And the funding mechanisms are quite innovative, primarily through the lottery fund. The creative industries in the UK is worth over 111 billion pounds, 2018 estimate. And it grows at a 5 times faster rate than the overall national economy of the UK. So I think UK has a set of knowledge, experience, and skills to share internationally, and British Council, as UK's cultural and education organization, is a conduit for sharing of this information. And what is really fascinating about these webinars that you have embedded as part of Ripples 2 is it is creating this fantastic global South and North learning mechanism. And I think that is what I really wanted to also applaud Bangla Natok for. There is our work in India in arts and culture has a sharp focus on systemic change and partnerships. Again, Ripples Festival is a demonstration of that spirit of partnership between UK and India. In 2019, since 2019, our programming has become a lot more strategic, and we have focused on multi-year programming with partners across India and the UK. Crafting Futures is one of our major programming strands within arts and culture, and it creates, it aims to create a sustainable future through making and collaboration and supporting a future for craft by understanding its value in history, culture, time, and place. There are 3 or 4 ways in which British Council is specifically working in the space of creative economy and cultural heritage. So we have been publishing a series of reports called Taking the Temperature Survey that maps the impact of COVID-19 on creative economy. across India, and we have been publishing this from March 2020, and we will continue to publish till May 2021. And this is in partnership with the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Artex company. We have instituted 10 Creative Economy scholarships for Indian students to study in the UK, particularly to strengthen higher education research collaboration between India and UK in these domains. And these are in areas such as arts management and cultural policy, with 4 leading UK universities. There's Goldsmiths University of London, King's College London, Birmingham City University, and Glasgow University. We have been working very closely with state government in West Bengal, the tourism department of West Bengal, we have put together a creative economy mapping of Durga Puja festival, which many claim to be the world's largest public arts festival. And many of the intangible cultural heritage aspects that Jonathan mentioned, and especially the overlap between intangible cultural heritage and things and places, is epitomized in the Durga Puja festival. So this is a research that was we commissioned on behalf of West Bengal Tourism Department, and the research was conducted by 3 institutions: Queen Mary University of London, Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and SmartCube. So this research established a value for Durga Puja across 10 industry verticals. So Durga Puja's worth by 2019 was $4.53 billion. And there has been significant spikes in visitor economy around Durga Puja festival, both domestically and tourism. And the report sets out a number of policy recommendations for making Durga Puja a lot more sustainable, inclusive for people with different abilities, for gender, and so on. And I think this really sets out the kind of focus British Council has in the policy space in arts, culture, and intangible heritage and creative economy, and allied to visitor economy. I think sustainability of livelihoods and of communities is incredibly important. And that was what was particularly impressive at the Ripples Festival. I think I'll stop there in the interest of time. Thank you once again to all fellow panelists, and particularly to my colleagues at British Council India and Bangla. Thank you.
Thank you, Devanzan. So one of the villages which is participating in this festival is Daryapur. Daryapur is the village of Dokra art. And Dokra is a very small, old tradition. You know, it is one of the primitive traditions of metal casting. So we'll hear from Suresh Karmakar, who is here, that how they make Dokra. Suresh?
নমস্কার, আমি সুরেশ কর্মকার।
Suresh, you are not coming in video. আচ্ছা,
ডোকরা সম্পর্কে বলো।
আমাদের ডোকরার কাজটা, আমাদের এই ডোকরার কাজটা প্রথম থেকে শুরু হয় মাটি থেকে। এই মাটির এইরকম ছোট।
Suresh, admit. Those who are managing the Zoom, please put the spotlight on Suresh. হ্যাঁ, সুরেশ এবার বলো।
হ্যাঁ, আমাদের কাজটা প্রথম থেকে শুরু হয় মাটি এবং মোম এবং ধুনো দিয়ে। এইটা হচ্ছে মাটি দিয়ে, আর এই ধুনো এবং মোম এই দুটো একসঙ্গে মিশ্রণ করে, মানে আগুনে গরম করে, লিকুইড করে, তারপরে এটা একটা একটা করে সুতো তৈরি করে ডিজাইন দেওয়া হয়। আমাদের কাজের ডিজাইন হচ্ছে এই যে এই ধরনের এই ডিজাইন গুলো করা হয়। কোনো বড় কাজের ক্ষেত্রে এরকম মাটি দিয়ে ছাদ তৈরি করতে হয়, আর ছোটখাটো কোনো কাজ করলে ডাইরেক্ট এই মোমটা দিয়ে তৈরি করা হয় পাতলা কাজ।
So I'll request Moumita Kundu, who is assisting Suresh in interpretation, to explain.
So first, they actually make a mold of their desired design, and then with wax or tar and resin. They cover the mold, and after that they take this product into the furnace and then polish the product to get this kind of final stage of product, dokra items.
So viewers, as you see, dokra is very intricate and a very interesting metal craft. সুরেশ, তোমার তো ডোকরার সমাদর সারা বিশ্বে, কাজে তোমরা সারাক্ষণ বাজারে নিয়ে যাচ্ছ ডোকরাকে। এই বাজারে নিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য কোনো চাহিদা তৈরি হয়েছে যেটা তোমার শিল্পকে পাল্টাচ্ছে? I'm asking Suresh that, you know, as they take dokra to market, whether they're facing any challenges in commercialization, whether they're facing demands which is making him change his art. Yes, Suresh, bol.
চাহিদা বেড়েছে। আমাদের পূর্বপুরুষরা এই চাল মাপার এই সমস্ত জিনিসগুলো বা ঘুঙুর, হাতের বালা যেরকম এই দিদি পরে আছেন, এই সমস্ত জিনিসগুলো বানাতেন। তারপরে গ্রামের কাছে দেখুন পৌঁছে দিতে দিতে সকলের কাছে দেখুন তারা জনপ্রিয় হয়ে উঠলেন। তখন একটা মানে ডিজাইন একটা শুরু করলেন, ভালো একটা আকৃতি দিয়ে বিভিন্ন ধরনের দেবদেবীর মূর্তি দিয়ে শুরু করলেন। তারপর থেকে আমরা এই ধরনের ডিজাইনের মানে ডেভেলপ করে মানে এই মূর্তিগুলো বানাই। আর চাহিদা বলতে বহু ইয়েতে আমরা এইরকম ধরনের পলিশ করতাম, মানে এরকম মাটি লেগে থাকতো আর কি, কালো থাকতো জিনিসগুলো। এখন বাজারের চাহিদাতে আমাদেরকে বাধ্যতামূলক হয়ে এইরকম চকচকে করতে হচ্ছে। অ্যাকচুয়ালি ন্যাচারাল ডোকরা এইরকম ধরনের কালো থাকে।
This is very interesting. Moumita, can you please share in English?
Yeah. So previously, like previous generation used to make this kind of measuring bowl of rice, this kind of god and goddess or jewelry like this, and sold in the villages. And later on, with time, they are making this kind of diversified products. See, it's a fork with dokra on the top, and people like asking for polished products. So previously from this, the things become now this.
So what Suresh is saying that, you know, traditionally dokra is to be dark because, you know, it is it's a clay cast where they're putting in metal chips, and that is how they sold it. But now they're asked to polish it to look it a bit different. So Suresh, তোমার এই নিয়ে কত কোনো কথা আছে? এটা কি তোমার ভালো লাগছে না এতে কোনো অসুবিধা হচ্ছে?
হ্যাঁ, না এটা নিয়ে অসুবিধা কিছু নয়, যেহেতু যুগের সাথে সাথে আমাদেরকেও চেঞ্জ হতে হচ্ছে। মানে কাস্টমারের চাহিদাতে ওরা ডিজাইন ডেভেলপ করে, দেখুন একই ধরনের কাজ করলে আমাদেরও চলবে না সারা জীবন। সেই কারণে আমরা ডিজাইন ডেভেলপ করে আমরা এই জিনিসগুলো, ব্যবহারযোগ্য জিনিসগুলো যে তৈরি করছি, এইগুলো খুব সুন্দর এখন মার্কেটে চলছে। আর আমরা চাইবো কাস্টমার যেরকম ধরনের চাইবে সেটাই তৈরি করতে হবে আমাদেরকে।
So what Suresh is saying that the same product is not getting sold, and so Moumita, sorry, just for interest of time, just translated, and they are making diversified products. Suresh, তোমাদের গ্রামে তো একটা মেলাও হয় আর একটা সেন্টারও হয়েছে, কিন্তু কোভিড এ তো লোকজন আসা একদম বন্ধ হয়ে গেছিল। তো কোভিড এর সময় তোমাদের কি অসুবিধা হয়েছে? My question to him is, how has COVID affected them?
কোভিড এর সময় আমাদের গত 2 বছর আমাদের সিচুয়েশন অনেকই খারাপ ছিল। তার কারণ হচ্ছে আমাদের যে জিনিসপত্রগুলো স্টকে ছিল সেগুলো তো মানে বাজারে তো বিক্রি করার জন্য খুব আমাদের চাপ হয়ে গেছিল আর কি। কোনো মেলা ফেলা বা কোনো হস্তশিল্পর কোনো মেলাতে যেতে পারতাম না, সবকিছুই বন্ধ ছিল। তো বিভিন্ন জায়গা থেকে, গভর্নমেন্ট থেকে এবং এরকম বিভিন্ন সংস্থা থেকে আমাদের সাহায্যের হাত বাড়িয়েছেন। ওনারাও সাহায্য করেছেন যাতে করে আমরা এই জিনিসটা করতে পারি। এবং বাংলানাটক.com থেকে যে রিপ্লেস এই আমাদের মেলার জন্য এটা করেছেন, এটাতে মানুষের চাহিদা প্রচন্ড বাড়ছে এবং এই মেলার আগে থেকেই বাড়ছে। আমরা চারিদিক থেকে আমরা যতটুকু সম্ভব সবাইকে ইনভাইট করেছি যে আপনারা যাবেন। আমরা চাইবো সকলে এসে আমাদের গ্রামটা জিনিস দেখে যান, সরাসরি শিল্পীদের সঙ্গে কথা বলে কাজকর্ম কিনুন, সরাসরি যোগাযোগ করুন আমাদের সঙ্গে, এটুকুই চাই।
Moumita, please translate.
Yeah. So actually, before pandemic, like 2020 on before 2020, they have made a huge stock for the upcoming fairs and festivals. But due to this pandemic, it becomes it became very challenging for them to sell their products. So that's why the situation become a little worse. But in time, like different kind of organizations like government or non-government organizations help them to come out from that situation. And now this festival, this Ripples Festival also helped them because like so many people from like city and around nearby around the villages are coming here and their products are getting sold.
সুরেশ, তুমি আর কিছু বলতে চাও যারা এখানে আছেন তাদের?
একটা ছোট করে বলতে চাই আর কি, যেটা হচ্ছে আমাদের এইরকম ধরনের মেলা বা কিছু করলে আমি চাইবো যে সকলে বাইরে থেকে বিভিন্ন জায়গা থেকে আসুক এবং আসছেন ওনারা, আমাদের এই ব্যবসা বাণিজ্য আবার আগেকার মতন আমরা ফিরে যাচ্ছি আর কি আস্তে আস্তে করে। আমরা চাইবো এরকম ভাবে যেন আমাদের আরো মার্কেটটা একটু বাড়ে। সকলে মিলে এটাই বলে শেষ করবো। নমস্কার, ধন্যবাদ।
So Suresh wants everyone to come in their village, like see their artwork, visit the village, and so their market will like increase, and the demand of Dokra will also increase.
Thank you, Momita. Thank you, Suresh. So now I'll go over to Dr. Harriet Dicken. Harriet is an independent researcher with a PhD in history and an MSc in management of intellectual property. She is affiliated to the University of Cape Town and Coventry University Center for Dance Research. She has been part of heritage-sensitive marketing and intellectual property projects in India and Kyrgyzstan. And in Kyrgyzstan, the British Council-supported project, where we had the opportunity to interact also, was also promoting in a very interesting ways creative entrepreneurship. So Harriet, Suresh has raised an important point that you know how their tradition changed with time and how to meet customer demand. They started polishing, while in the traditionally they never polished. And of course, the product repertoire also changed. And you have been working on ICH, IP, and this whole issue of, you know, the authenticity, which we say in ICH, there is no authenticity because it is living and changing. So how do you think communities can safeguard their tradition and address audience demand or market demand in a heritage sensitive way? You have worked in so many countries. We'd like to hear from you, your experience.
Thanks very much, Ananya, and also for inviting me to be part of the festival. I think this is a really important point, and it's got really practical implications for artists in villages who wanting to kind of meet the market halfway, as well as to, you know, express their own heritage practices. So as you said, I was involved in two different projects. I'm just going to put the thing in the links in the chat. Sorry, my phone's just ringing. But I think one of the things that we learned from those projects in India and Kyrgyzstan was looking at the question of context. You know, Jonathan mentioned context, connectivity, continuity, and change. And looking at change, for example, how do artists make the decision about what kind of innovation is heritage sensitive and in line with their tradition, and what kind of innovation is actually being taken out of their control and being pushed by the market. And equally, even at a UNESCO level, there's been a number of discussions about how do you retain that context of the cultural heritage as part of safeguarding, and how do you prevent what's called decontextualization or over-commercialization, where things get taken out of context. And so one of the things that we worked on in the HyPAMS project, which banglanatak.com was also a partner in, and in the India side of the project, was we looked at the questions of, and I'm adding 2 more C's here, control. How can you encourage village artists to have more control? How can you enable and empower village artists to have more control over their marketing? So for example, if you register a GI by itself, the GI doesn't necessarily give you control. If you fill the name, let's say Bengal Patachitra, with content that is part of your heritage content through your own digital storytelling, for example, then you are giving that GI, the geographical indication, the name. You're giving it a broader meaning to not just the people who know it already, but to your new customers. And that gives you a little bit more control to say, look, this is us, this is our heritage, this is what it means. And I think that links to this other idea of communication, that what one of the things the HyPAMS project did, very instrumental in this, providing training to the artists so that they could do their own digital storytelling online. And this was particularly important at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, when you weren't getting footfall in the villages and where you wanted to have more digital content presenting the artist's voice essentially online. And I think that this enabled also not just a better communication, but also new kinds of products. And Jonathan mentioned that it's not just the thing itself that you're wanting to sell, but you're also potentially wanting to market services like workshops on how to, make something beautiful out of, how to make a design on paper that looks like a Patachitra art, or how to dress up your dokra and make it look more beautiful, how to, look at what's happening in the workshops. And people enjoy those kinds of online experiences, maybe not quite as much as going to the village itself. But I'm afraid that we're probably going to see some more waves of COVID coming around. And in terms of resilience, it's very important to have all these different options in the back pocket for artists when something changes. And equally, the online and the face-to-face work hand in hand. And so one of the other things we found was that helping the villagers to educate visitors about how to post their photographs of the visit, and how to make sure that visitors were sharing their photographs in a non-commercial way. In other words, not making money off the backs of the visitors without acknowledging them, was also a way of helping to make sure that tourism promotes artists and villagers rather than promoting the interests of third parties only. So I think this idea of control, of educating your customers, educating your visitors, really helps to promote tourism as sustainable development rather than just income generation, and that income might go anywhere. So for me, that was a big learning point from the HyPAMS project and the Creative Spark project in Kyrgyzstan, where also the role of tourism in linking together different kinds of ICH in the region was incredibly important. And I think that connects to Jonathan's idea about seeing ICH and tourism as part of a bigger jigsaw where all of these things are linked together. So I think I'll leave it there. And thank you once again for including me in the lineup.
Thank you, Harriet. So really, you have given us a lot of words, all the speakers, and in future, when we champion this cause, C and C. We have lots of C's: control, content, connectivity, continuity, change. I love it. So now I'll go over to one of the champions. So a C word again. Champions of Katha embroidery. In fact, Devanzan was wearing a Katha right when he was speaking. And we have Afruza, who has been supported by British Council also to visit UK. So she's an expert in Katha embroidery, and she's training the women in this region where the festival is happening, Bardhaman, on, making their products more market worthy and giving them confidence. Many of the women who participated in this festival, they said this is the first time they have come out of the house and participated in an exhibition. And they have been really encouraged by people like Afruza, who shared their stories of how they took their art from to different cities of India and to abroad. Papia, তোমার যে কাঁথা শিল্প, তুমি তো অপূর্ব তোমার কাজ, আর তুমি দেশে বিদেশে গেছো। তুমি যদি একটু বলো যে তোমাকে এই কাঁথা কি করে শক্তি দিয়েছে, একটু তোমার কাজও দেখাও, আর এই কাঁথা তোমায় কি শক্তি দিয়েছে সেটা যদি একটু শেয়ার করো।
হ্যাঁ, নমস্কার, আমার নাম আফরোজা খাতুন, আমি নানুরের থেকে এসেছি।
তোমার কাঁথা শিল্পটা দেখো।
হ্যাঁ, এই যে একটা সুজনি কাঁথা।
This is the traditional Sujni Katha. It's the actual origin of Katha she is showing now.
So, we are talking of sustainable fashion these days, and this is the heritage of sustainable fashion where old clothes are recycled, they're layered together with simple run stitch and throws are made, which is called Katha.
বলো সেটা বলো।
এই একটা আছে, এটা গ্রামে হাট, যেটা আমাদের গ্রামে যে হাটটা হয়, সেই হাটটা আমরা মানে এতে স্টলের মধ্যে করেছি।
Storytelling, she has tried to depict the storytelling part here based on their hearts look. As you can see, the figurines are there.
So Katha is actually called women's vocabulary of Bengali women's vocabulary. The women used to, give their dreams, aspiration, and stories as they embroidered their old clothes together. এই কাঁথাতে তোমার জীবনে এবং তোমার আশেপাশের মেয়েদের জীবনে কি পরিবর্তন এনেছে এটা যদি বলো। I'm asking her how Katha has changed her life and the life of women in her community.
কাঁথা আমাদের জীবনে অনেক পরিবর্তন নিয়ে এসেছে। আমাদের আগে বহুত কষ্ট ছিল, এই কাঁথা থেকে আমি অনেক কিছু করেছি, মেয়েদেরকে শিক্ষিত করেছি, পড়াশোনা করেছি। আমার কিছুই ছিল না, এই কাঁথা থেকে আমি বিদেশও গিয়েছি, 3-4টে বিদেশ গিয়েছি আমি কাঁথা থেকে। আমার আর্থিক অবস্থা খুব একটা ভালো ছিল না, আমার কাঁথা থেকে আমি এখন অনেক কিছু করেছি, মেয়েদের বিয়েও দিয়েছি।
So she is saying that Katha has helped her to get out of the poverty part of her life, and also Katha has given her the power to reach out to the people outside of her village, and now she's living a better life.
And she has also educated her daughters, and now they are married, and Katha helped her to do all that. তো তুমি তো লন্ডনে গেছো, আরো অনেকগুলো শহরে গেছো, একটু জায়গাগুলো বলো।
হ্যাঁ, আমি লন্ডন গিয়েছি, জার্মান গিয়েছি, আয়ারল্যান্ড গিয়েছি, ডাবলিন গিয়েছি।
সেখানে কেমন লেগেছে?
খুব ভালো লেগেছে দিদি।
কি ভালো লেগেছে?
ওখানে একমাত্র আমি তো গিয়েছি, এটা তো ভালো লেগেছে, আর ওখানকার লোকজনকেও আমাকে খুব ভালো লেগেছে, আর আমার কাঁথা শিল্পীকে ওনারা খুব পছন্দ করেছে, কাঁথার জিনিস যে হাতে করেছি তো।
So what she's saying, she's been to Germany, Ireland, London, and everywhere. She liked the people and she liked the respect they gave for the handmade craft. So that is something they really appreciated. Thank you, Afruza. So now what we find today is that intangible cultural heritage has really tremendous power, and it has really changed and transformed the lives of people. Now I'll open up the discussion, and I'll first ask the panelists whether you have any question for among yourselves, whether you'd like to ask any questions to our craftspersons, our artists, or each other, the experts. Do you have any question? তোমাদেরও বলছি, তোমরা কি কোনো প্রশ্ন করতে চাও ওনাদের? Okay. Devanzan has raised his hand.
Hi.
Devanzan.
Hello. I had a question for Jonathan and Harriet in particular, which is how do we resist the temptation of exoticizing, indigenous cultures and people and their traditional crafts when we talk about intangible cultural heritage in an international context?
Yeah, Harriet, if I may respond first.